Hi, this micro lecture deals with functionality in Zoom meeting rooms. Now again, you are probably self-taught, which means you got in there and learned how to do what you had to learn, but there might be some capabilities that are right there that you're just not familiar with. So let's go ahead and open up our Zoom meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and click Start. By default, my webcam was on. I'd set my setting to that, but let's go ahead and turn that off by clicking on the stop video, and that will bring my profile picture up. Let's just go ahead and cover that up as we walk through the functionality. And let's walk left to right across the menu bar and then go into detail for each one. This is our microphone, mute, unmute, our webcam on, off, some security issues. We want to see the participants and do some things with the participants. Take polls, but we need to set that up in advance or else do it on the fly. The chat function, the share screen function, recording our meetings, having closed captions in our meetings, breakout rooms, reactions, claps and stuff like that, and then just a couple of other things. So let's go ahead and take a look at those one at a time, starting with microphone, mute, unmute. Pretty obvious, but remember, this is just for you. If you want to mute or unmute your participants, you're going to do that up in the participants area, for your students. One thing about muting and unmuting, and you might want to tell this to your students because I found this to be really helpful. The space bar unmutes you when you are muted. And that's true for you, the host. That's true for the students as participants. And so what I suggest that they do is leave their mute on all the time so they're always muted. But when they want to talk, don't bother going and unmuting themselves. Just reach down and hit the space bar and hold the space bar down. And of course, while you're holding the space bar down, you're thinking, oh, I'm holding the space bar down, I'm unmuted. And then of course, when you're ready to stop talking, you let go of the space bar and you're back muted again. Okay, now the webcam on, off. Kind of obvious. One quick thing about the webcam on, off. If you want to leave the webcam off, probably a good idea to put a profile picture in there. If you're going to do the webcam on and you don't like the area in which you are recording or conducting your Zoom class, you can change the background. Here I had a virtual send-off for a colleague who is going to go teach in Rome in the fall, and so to be festive, I put an Italian flag behind me there. That's really simple to do. You go into the webcam area, click on that up area. That, of course, is where you can change your webcam. But what I'm doing here is I'm choosing a virtual background. I had a photo file, a JPEG file of an Italian flag, and I just simply selected that. This is one of the default ones I use most of the time, the boardroom. To be very, very serious for my business classes. By the way, you notice my UCLA shirt there, Go Bruins. Actually, when I first started a meeting and I had my UCLA shirt on, it looked like that. And I thought, oh, that's not going to do. This is kind of funny, but the default for Zoom is your image is backwards, if you can believe that. That's the default. So to change that, if you don't want it backwards, you go back into that webcam there, into the video settings, go into the video settings, and mirror my video. That is checked by default. Again, that's the default. And I was curious. I went and looked why that was the case. The logic behind that is you are used to seeing yourself in the mirror. And so when you're on your webcam, you want to see yourself the way you're used to seeing yourself. Well, that works fine unless you've got something like writing that would then be backwards. So if that's the case, that's how you go and change that. Okay, security. Enable waiting room, lock meeting, that prevents people from coming in, allow participants to share screen chat. Notice that a lot of these things you can get to in the settings. What this is doing is this is changing the settings on the fly in your class session. Participants, you definitely want to see who's in there. And so if you click on participants, that goes up there and you see all who's there. You can always minimize that so you've got the full screen there. Now notice down at the bottom there, yes, no. This is a great way to take real quick little yes or no's. Now, this is different than hands up. I don't have any participants in the meeting right now because I'm just doing this for illustrative purposes. But when there are participants there, one of their things is they can put their hand up. And if you've got your participants panel open, you can see when someone has their hand up. That's different than, can I see a show of hands, yes or no? So I always say, oh, yes or no, and they can click that button down at the bottom. That, again, is different than polling, as we'll see in just a second. When you do polling, you either have got to set up your questions in advance or you've got to type them in. So if I click on polling here and I haven't set my questions up in advance, that's what it says. Okay, add a question, because I haven't set those up in advance. If you know that you're going to want to ask specific questions, good idea to set those up in advance. Chat. Well, obviously, you know what the chat function is. When you click on that, it lets you see the chat. If you've got both chat and participants open simultaneously, they will be stacked one on top of each other. With regard to chat, you can go ahead and say that students can't chat privately. You'll fix that in the settings. Okay, share screen. One participant can share, multiple participants, advanced sharing options, who can share, who can start sharing when someone else is sharing. Again, these are settings that you can have done in advance in your settings, or you can change them once you're in your meeting. Record. There's enough little issues here that it deserves its own little standalone micro lecture. So there's a separate standalone micro lecture dealing with that. Closed caption, you can assign someone to type, or you can use a third-party closed caption service. Breakout rooms. This is a neat functionality in Zoom. You can create them manually, or you can have them created automatically, and you can designate the number of participants and the number of rooms. And you can rename the rooms, like I know I have one class where they've got specific teams. They're each working on a specific team, so I'll go ahead and name those the name of the team. You can change rooms, you can delete rooms, and so on and so forth. Reactions, this is just where you get quick feedback, thumbs up, claps, things like that. More, if you've got participants open and or chat open, some of those other buttons won't show, so you might see those. But if you've got chat closed, if you've got participants closed, all you'll get in that more are being live on one of these things, which you're probably not doing, but that's what is there. Okay, again, there are standalone micro lectures on scheduling and recording. But that will do it for this micro lecture on Zoom meeting functionality.